There is a comic shop beyond that which is known to man. It is a shop filled with arcane and oddity. A long box is in the corner, marred with layers of shadow and dust. It contains the comics between the pit of man's fears and the limits of his bank account. This is the dimension of stupidity. It is an area which we call the Mylite Zone.
Hello, everybody. This is another episode of the Mylite Zone from Up and Atom Comics. So, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not seen any of my other episodes of the Mylite Zone, be sure to check them out. So, what is the Mylite Zone? Basically, it is highlighting either characters or comics themselves that I have in my collection that I think they're just very odd, weird things. So sometimes they're pet projects, sometimes they're just um, ideas of things that have come out, and a lot of times it's just, how did how did this come to be? So this is kind of FOMO for the insane. I would say if you enjoy just silly, stupid things, hope you enjoy this series of ones that I'm going to do. So with with this, I do feel like comics are very should be entertaining. They are an entertaining um, form of media to try to get into. And sometimes when you've collected a lot of things over the years, sometimes you just want something silly and stupid. And so that's kind of where I come into play. So, what am I going to highlight today? We're going to talk a little bit about Sin, Girl from LSD. Check out this cover. So, this is one of those wraparound covers. Uh, and it's from 1990. And this is a book that is from, um, it's considered AC Comics. And this is a one shot. So this was number one. Um, Now, this character, when I picked this up, because my LCS got in a collection, and they saw this and they were like, "This is an Adam book. This is something he would probably want." And boy, were they right. So when I saw the title, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of this." Girl from LSD, like, what in the world is going on? So I did a read through of this, and one thing that's interesting is this kind of took me down some uh, a little bit of a rabbit hole, but an unnecessary rabbit hole, but a rabbit hole nonetheless. And it kind of, while I was going into it thinking like, oh man, this is some like drug-riddled, comic, underground comic or something like that, that I was expecting it to be. It kind of made me change my mind a little bit about it. So who is Sin, Girl from LSD? So the editor of this book and the creator of this character is Bill Black. And Bill Black um also did a little bit of um a film directed that has something to do with this. But anyway, before we get into that side of things, so this is story and art by Mark Heike, I want to say is his name, Heike. And Mark did this story. So it kind of starts off with the character Sin there, a girl from LSD. She's having this dream about pigs flying. And so you can kind of see the pigs with wings. Kind of crazy. What the character turns out to be um, is Sin, which is short for synesthesia, um, is a character that was basically had a government kind of had captured her and had subjected her to some different things. she was on LSD, and it kind of um, heightened that LSD capability and gave her these powers um, through the experimentation, basically where it would reintroduce hallucinations to her, but also she could touch somebody, get a feel for what their fears and their kind of things are, and then project that out. So it's kind of like everybody that's kind of in a room would get some crazy hallucinogenic head trip. And that is basically her powers. So girl from LSD, it is that. So it's kind of interesting. The story takes place um, where there's a hospital, and it's kind of funny. There's this little they're going into this hospital. There's a kid in bed there. Now the funny like inner thing is the kid's name is Sid Barrett. For those that are unfamiliar with Sid Barrett is one of the original members of Pink Floyd that went crazy. Also, had done too many drugs. And it's kind of funny. They also make a comment. They were like, "Hey, what's going on with Sid?" And they're like, "Sorry, Mr. Waters, who's the kind of a person that brought them in." Now that makes me think it's like a reference to Roger Waters, also founding member of Pink Floyd. So we got Roger Waters possibly and Sid Barrett that are in the story. So and Sid Barrett's one of those. It has an interesting story if you want to dive into a little bit about Pink Floyd. Sid Barrett was the original vocalist and things for that for Sid Barrett. I mean for Pink Floyd, and ended up going into an asylum, went a little crazy. A lot of members of Pink Floyd still kept in touch with him, but it was kind of the essence of that psychedelic um, music. And kind of before and in replacement of Sid Barrett, they kind of brought in David Gilmour, who a lot of people know from Pink Floyd. So David Gilmour and Roger Waters are kind of more seen as those like central pieces of Pink Floyd. But Sid Barrett was kind of there before. So anyway, that's another aside. Um, Sorry, the dog's making a lot of clicking noises. He always likes to check out when I'm doing videos. So Sid Barrett is in bed, and she touches Sid Barrett and kind of realizes a lot of his fears that are coming out, um, and realizes that there are some monsters down below. So she makes Sid Barrett, like when she touches him, he turns into water, and all of this. Like the gooey, watery substance kind of overflows this like hospital bed and that type of thing. And and kind of goes off the rails a little bit, but basically finds that there are these bodies in a morgue downstairs that are infecting his mind and his dreams as well. So basically, the story goes into where Sin is going into to fight all of these monsters, and then there's a little bit later on where there's some trying to break into a government building, and she makes all of these guys hallucinate, different things like that. Trying to stop a missile launch. So it's kind of like one story, and then it kind of goes into a different one. Um, and then it just kind of abruptly ends. And so that's the story. Now, one thing that's interesting that I didn't know is that there's this series called FemForce, also by AC Comics, where they do have um, Sin as a character within that. So I thought this was like a one shot, like just a weird story, and it turns out that it was carried over from that. And then they have also in the back, they have this story. I can't get her out of my head. And it's by the writer and artist who is talking about his love of Synn. The Silva Synn was the Silva synesthesia, you know. So it's kind of and it came out in a Paragon comics um, where they first introduced this character. And so it has some of the original um, art from other issues where Sin has come into play. Um, and so like I had no idea that this character existed in other things before this. And then one thing that's kind of nice is they do reprint Paragon Illustrated #2, which has this origin story of the girl from LSD. So it kind of talks about how she came to be and how she's formed into this new superhero named Synesthesia. So it was really kind of fascinating. One thing that's great also is they have a little index of all the issues that previously appeared in to kind of introduce us. And then they show like they have some art from some different things. I love this. This character here that they're fighting is called No Nose Nanette. So she's got this like little mask kind of thing over her nose to give her like a fake nose. But she's known as No Nose Nanette. So I kind of want to know a little bit more. Um, and so this is where a rabbit hole started for me. So, like I said, I could go back and try to look at these comics, but at the very end, they start talking about this movie that exists. It's called Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. And Bill Black, as I mentioned before, was the editor of that. And Bill Black actually directed that Bloodsuckers from Outer Space film. Now, from what I understood in reading this, and they have a whole article about the creation of that and who that is. They actually have a character as Sin in this, and they have an interview with the actress who played Sin in this movie. And so it has like lots of little clips from it. Now, as it turns out, as they're writing this, it talks about how uh, that Sin appears in the chapter 5 of this Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. And it was intended to be a serial. So if you remember those serials that, heavily popular in like, 40s and 50s and things like that in film, they would show like a little clip of a movie, a little cliffhanger, and then it would go into another story and follow the character through. And that was the intention of that. So I was like, I need to see this movie. I want to try to find this collected serials thing. And so I did find a movie called Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. And because this was a serial and that she appeared in chapter 5 of the serial, I wanted to do some investigation into that. So I actually found a movie on Tubi called Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. I watched the entire thing. It was like an hour and a half long. Um, but the thing is it's a totally different movie. It has nothing to do with this character. So it was, but I was expecting. I was like, oh well, it's chapter 5. So they had the first four. She's not even in this, so it kind of made me keep watching and thinking. And it was almost the movie kind of you could see could kind of be broken into chapters a little bit. So I was like, oh okay, well maybe she's coming up next. Maybe this is going to take a weird turn. Um, but Bloodsuckers from Outer Space, if you're interested in that, in the movie that does not have anything to do with this, it was an entertaining movie. So it was it was low budget, where there's this disease. It came out in 1984. There was this disease that basically infected these people in, I want to say they're in Texas somewhere. Um, and it was like a virus that turned people into kind of vampirish zombies. And so, um, and there's some drugs that were involved early on. So I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely the right thing because they were driving down the road and hitting a nitrous tank down the road while they're cruising along. And there was just lots of weird, bizarre things, but it was one of those movies. It was fun. It's like so bad my wife came in and she's like, "What are you watching here?" And I was like, I gotta finish this. I'm invested." It's not a great movie, but it had its highlights. It had some funny humor in it. Um, you have to appreciate low budget movies and people just trying to put something out there and doing it. And so I enjoyed that, but it had nothing to do with this. So I'm still trying to find somewhere the serials of this film that's Bloodsuckers from Outer Space that existed with another existed in another title of a movie with the same name. I mean, what are the odds of that? But anyway, so I actually thought this was pretty well done. So if you're interested in checking out Sin, Girl from LSD, it might be a little hard to find. I was kind of lucky that this came. From a collection that got turned into the comic shop. Like I had never heard of this before. I'd never heard of AC Comics really. But it was a good read. And it, like I said, it was a pet project. It was something fun that these people put out. But they put this book out in 1990 as a tribute to those books that featured Sin Girl from LSD. And those initial issues, a lot of that came out like in the 70s, so kind of in the height of drugs and different things like that, and that started that underground comics world. That's kind of where this character kind of came from, and so this is like a rejuvenation. Let me tell you the story about this character, and then let's highlight the history of it. And so I thought that was really fun. And so the while her powers and some of the story kind of hopped around a little bit, I thought the art was pretty good. I mean, the art was pretty strong. It's a good black and white issue. But the history behind all of it was what kind of really fascinated me, and of course made me try to find another movie that went along with this. But anyway, so that's a little deeper dive into Sin, Girl from LSD. Have you ever heard of this? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you've heard of AC Comics or anything like that, any links that if you can find the serial, I did a little look for it. Just try to find it on any kind of streaming services or IMDb or anything like that. And I only came up with other movies. So I'm not even sure if that was like published or if it was just something some friends did for a fun time. But anyway, I was curious about it, and so if you find that, let me know. But let me know what you think of Sin Girl from LSD, and I will check you later on the next episode. So take care, everybody. Bye bye.